With over 2 million followers on Instagram, more than $3 million earned from OnlyFans, and several other lucrative streams of revenue, Courtney Clenney was an incredibly successful blonde bombshell at the very top of her game. But on April 3rd, 2022, whether intentional or not, her irreversible actions would leave her boyfriend dead and her own hard-earned empire in ruins. Now, of course, there was seemingly more going on in Courtney's life behind the closed doors of social media. And, unfortunately for her, this newfound attention put a spotlight on her highly concerning behaviour and actions. However, was Courtney to blame for Christian's untimely death? What does the evidence say about her? What did she do after the fact? And what will happen next? Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at one of my most requested cases to date, and that's the story of Courtney Clenney. Fame, fortune, love, and financial security, Courtney genuinely seemed to have it all. And no matter how you look at this case, it is impossible to deny that she had plenty of opportunity to avoid this current situation. But before we begin today, and just to let you know that I post true crime and strange cases here weekly, so if that is your sort of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime. And so, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat, and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Courtney Clenney. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks. Today we're returning to the mighty nation of the United States of America. And zoning in one step further, welcome to Miami. Now you can't go much further south or east than here, as the Magic City rests on the southeastern coast of Florida's peninsula. On that note, it's probably obvious to say that Florida, also known as the Sunshine State, receives more than 3,000 hours of sunlight annually. And with an average temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius, it is no wonder that millions of tourists flock here every year. Now, Miami is known for its strong Cuban influence, balmy weather, pristine beaches, and fantastic diving sites. The city is also home to many famous teams and landmarks, which includes the Miami Heat, the iconic Miami Tower, and of course, the beautiful Everglades National Park. Miami has had a somewhat stagnant population number in recent years, but for now it's home to just under 500,000 residents. And eventually, this is where we will find the lives of Courtney Clenney and Christian Obumseli. Courtney Clenney was born on April 21st, 1996 to her mother Deborah and father Kim. The family originally lived in Texas, which is where they remained as Courtney and her sister Morgan grew up. And with her father holding a degree in finance and working as a financial advisor, they had plenty of financial means to support the family too. The daughters were spoiled while growing up, and supposedly always got what their hearts desired. Their parents were active in sports for their entire lives, and so naturally, this was reflected with Courtney and Morgan too. By the time Courtney had reached the second grade of high school, she was already into an impressive list of physical activities, including football, gymnastics, volleyball, diving, and riding horses. She also loved the world of theatre, drama, and dance, and she began taking classes for all of these things at the age of 13. Moving forward a couple years, it was during her time in high school that she started to take both exercise and physical fitness a lot more seriously. And moving into her adulthood, she became a qualified personal trainer, where she went on to win several competitions in weightlifting and fitness. Realizing that college wasn't the right path for her, she eventually dropped out of education to focus on other aspirations, such as fitness and social media. It was around this time that she started to notice that pictures of her at the gym got a lot of attention online. And with this in mind, this is when several random encounters helped thrust her into the internet spotlight. Appearing in a video on her YouTube channel named Courtney Taylor, Courtney described how she became Instagram famous through consistently posting content, giving interviews, moving to Los Angeles, featuring in Playboy, and other collaborations with other models. Courtney was rapidly growing on Instagram and other social media platforms, and after OnlyFans was founded in the year 2016, she spotted a new golden opportunity. Since she was young, confident, in great shape, and didn't mind that sort of extra attention, she asked herself, why not try it out? For those who don't know, OnlyFans is an internet content subscription service that allows creators to share whatever kind of content they like with other fans, all who pay to see that sort of content, including videos, pictures, and other paywall-restricted media. Now, Courtney was already rocketing in revenue and popularity, and in fact, she had gained over 1 million followers on Instagram, which led to all sorts of opportunities. This included sponsorships with many well-established brands and exciting interviews and features at places such as Chive HQ. It is hard to know exactly how much money Courtney was making before OnlyFans, but she would go on to make more than $3 million on the platform in less than 3 years. And excluding all other forms of revenue, Courtney earned more than $1 million on OnlyFans in 2020 alone, which was followed up by a staggering $1.8 million in 2021. Many would argue that Courtney Clenney had a life most of us could only ever dream of. She had fame, fortune, success, and a very supportive family. And to add to all of this, conventionally speaking, she was a very attractive young woman at the very peak of her game. Now, her industry and lifestyle may not be what everyone exactly aspires for, but considering her position, she was very lucky to be making such a staggering amount of money. You could even argue that the only thing that was missing was love. And in 2020, right when all of this was taking off, that missing feature of her life materialized. It was around this time that she first laid eyes upon a young and charming man named Christian Obumseli. Affectionately nicknamed Toby, Christian was born on April 12, 1994, and also lived in Dallas, Texas. During his time attending Murphy Middle School, Christian developed a passion for basketball and football, and by the time he moved on to attend Plano East Senior High School, his skills were almost as evident as his lovable personality. His football coach recalls Toby as a warm and caring man whose work ethic was off the charts. He always had a smile on his face and was willing to help any of the other younger players. In his more recent years, Toby was noted to be an extremely compassionate and gentle man with a very infectious smile. And as for his job, well, big money was the aim, and crypto was the game. He had also dived into the world of stocks at a very young age, and surprisingly, he was very good at it too. And combining the two compounding moneymakers together, he earned himself a very comfortable amount to live on. Christian fell in love with Courtney almost as soon as he met her, and that feeling seemed to be mutual, because within weeks, they were in a very passionate relationship. Friends claimed that in the beginning, everything seemed pleasant. They were having a lot of fun together and seemed to be deeply in love. However, a few months in, and not the same thing could be said, as the relationship had turned into something very dark and serious. Those who knew Toby before he met Courtney could see a very saddening and troubling change in him too. Where he was once bright and full of energy, he now often seemed stressed, preoccupied and withdrawn. And sadly, this was for good reason too, as Courtney had become somewhat controlling when it came to her boyfriend. She would often get upset at the very smallest of things, pull Toby away from his friendship group, and then, before they knew it, she would be screaming at him at the top of her lungs. Over time, physical violence became more noticeable within the relationship, and although this started with Courtney hitting him on the chest and shoulders, which is already bad enough, it would become much, much worse. With her lucrative and ever-expanding career, Toby made the decision to become her personal assistant, which meant he was always traveling, working and catering to her needs. Now sure, Toby did have a lot of fun doing this, but it also meant he was always around her, and was always exposed to her physical violence and behaviour. But Courtney had other problems going on too. She became a regular to the bars and clubs downtown in Austin, and as her frequency in alcohol increased, so did her dependency. Now this may explain some of the outbursts she had against Toby, because it is evident she clearly had an issue handling her liquor, but this is still no excuse. Her incompetence is proven in the form of 2 DUI charges against her, and in July 2021, the police were called after she had thrown a glass at Toby's head in Las Vegas.
What's going on today?
Things got blown out of proportion, like to the max.
Have you ever been cited or arrested before?
Yes.
For what?
DUI.
So, why am I here? What's going on?
My boyfriend and I just got into like a loud argument.
So you called once again for what? Why did you call for help?
Because we were getting really loud. We were getting loud. And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna like do damage to the room or something. Not damage to each other. Like I really wanna like
But why would you think
that.
Why would you think that you were gonna do damage to the room?
I like throwing something or like
Did you throw something?
did I?
Yeah.
No.
Did anybody throw anything?
No.
So why would you think that there is damage to the room to be made?
Because I've done that before in our house. And I
What have you done?
thrown a glass at him, plate.
Did you throw a glass or a plate at him today?
No.
Okay. So if
No, this is before.
Okay, so when I go to the room and I see a broken glass on the floor, where did the glass come from?
I don't know. I literally couldn't even remember how the fight started.
Okay,
Was there?
yeah,
Maybe I did.
okay.
I'm being Okay. I'm being completely honest with you. I feel like my brain is scrambled eggs right now.
Did anybody punch, hit, spit, throw anything at each other? Did he hit you or you did at him?
Well, I'm guessing that I threw a glass, but that sounds like me. So, oh, by the way, I just want to say, somebody mentioned earlier about there being a chair on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That was there. I don't know why we hadn't picked it up. That had nothing to do with a fight. We weren't throwing furniture at each other.
Following her subsequent arrest, Courtney was held for 12 hours overnight. But despite almost being seriously injured, Toby declined to press charges and desperately pleaded for her release. And while being interviewed by police officers, Courtney even changed her story to claim that she was the one who called them, because she didn't want any further embarrassment. It is worth saying here that Courtney did at least admit to previously throwing glasses and plates at her boyfriend. For better or worse, the couple eventually made plans to move away from Texas to experience a new chapter in their lives together. Toby was infatuated with London and had high hopes of moving there, but for Courtney it was Miami, and of course, like always, she got her way. Now, to be fair, they both liked the idea of living in the Magic City. It's well known for its pristine beaches, non-stop nightlife, and fantastic warm weather. And there are many appealing traits for young adults who like to party and have plenty of cash. And so, in January 2022, they finally made the decision to move 1,100 miles from Austin to Miami. Courtney was making substantial money by now, and her choice of an apartment definitely reflected this. They settled into Unit 2201 of 3131 Northeast 7th Avenue, found in Beverly Terrace not even 1 mile from downtown. And holy shit. With 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and spectacular views of Biscayne Bay, their apartment was luxurious to an unimaginable level. Now, of course, the rent was not cheap, and in fact, it is confirmed that Courtney spent an eye-watering amount of money to live here, $10,000 per month to be precise. Furthermore, she would often brag about paying the rent all by herself, and would even gloat and threaten to kick Toby to the streets if he misbehaved. Speaking of misbehaving, Courtney's troubling behaviour amplified after moving to Miami. She once again became a well-known face to the local clubs and bars, and her attitude and demeanour began to worsen yet again. There was no subtlety to this behaviour either. Appearing in the We in Miami podcast, she openly admitted that she was toxic, hated being bossed around and controlled, and, quote, only dates rich black guys.
Do you like to be fully controlled, or do you?
I like to be submissive. Yeah, in the bedroom,
Yes.
but in my life, I don't like anybody to tell me what to do.
Yeah, so you only want him to tell you what to do in the bedroom. Other than that, you don't want him to tell you anything.
Right. No, that's exactly it. Yes.
So that sounds like you're a control freak with your relationships. Be careful with this one. She's gonna boss you around like
Exactly.
Sweet toxicity.
Tell me.
So you only date rich black guys. So have you ever dated any politicians or only rappers or athletes, or what kind of rich black guys?
Dabble here, dabble there, a
Yeah.
little bit.
How much do you make them off?
A lot. Yeah, we make good money.
By now, Courtney was becoming unhinged with her actions. She was a serious risk to Toby's health, both physical and mental, and, even worse, took pride in the situation, even finding it funny at times. Further examples of her behaviour included her shouting and screaming at Toby, calling him many derogative words, including racial slurs, trashing their home and hotel rooms while away, and even throwing his possessions off their apartment balcony. Courtney's tantrums became so violent that, one time, after smashing up the entire Miami apartment, she then demanded that Toby move out, and sealed the deal by throwing all of his clothes over the balcony ledge. But Courtney knew that what she was doing was wrong, and every time an outburst like this happened, she would profusely apologize by showering him with gifts. In one instance, she tried to make amends for ruining his entire wardrobe of clothes by purchasing him a Louis Vuitton luggage set. You can probably guess that these things aren't cheap, and it cost her upwards of $10,000. And then, of course, shortly after this, came the infamous elevator surveillance footage that many of us have likely already seen. I'm not going to play all of this, but in this surveillance footage, it is obvious that Courtney was the one attacking Toby as he tried to push her away. Through the many messages and recordings of Toby, it is clear that he was both distraught and devastated by his girlfriend's actions. Yet, despite all of this constant aggression, he would always defend her in front of officers and other people. It's not currently clear if these acts of protection were out of concern that he too would be arrested over specific actions, but he always seemed to have her back, despite that not being reciprocated. Throughout the months and eventually years, multiple letters and text messages were documented by him, and in all of these articles it is clear to see how heartbroken yet love-struck he was with her. In a written letter addressed to Courtney, Toby said the following: "You are honestly the sweetest and most annoying woman I know, but I would never trade you for anything. I want to be everything to you. Your boyfriend, your best friend, your lifelong partner, the man you trust to put his life on the line for you. I do believe that dreams come true, and I would love for you to help me fulfill mine. Baby, you are the recipe when I'm stuck in the toughest situations, and the only person I want to share my life with. I remember walking on the trail in Austin, and I told you a poem that reminded me of you, which made me cry and love you so much, to the point I asked you to come take a walk during the sunset." In November 2021, another one of Courtney's more severe outbursts resulted in her stabbing him in the leg, and although there seemed to be signs of remorse and sympathy the following day, this only seemed to last a meager 24 hours. In a recovered text message, he said, "The crazy thing about all of this is that yesterday, when you stabbed me in the leg and you saw how bad it was hurting me, the next morning I still woke up happy. I still gave you a good day, even though my leg was hurting because my girlfriend stabbed me. I woke up happy, I took you to Vegas, helped you shoot, drank with you, and did blow with you just so you'd have a great time. And I'm doing all of this while my leg hurts so bad. Did I make you feel bad for stabbing me? No, I just sucked it up and hoped tomorrow would be better." In another text message sent in March 2022, Toby said, "Is love going to kill me? What if the knife sliced my lip and it wasn't sliced by my beard, my cheek, my eye? What might happen next time? February was the worst month I've had so far. I got cheated on. I got called that word again. I got slapped in my stitches that have reopened multiple times and it's not healing fast enough. I've gotten kicked out. I'm just trying to have a couple of things off my chest before therapy." To clarify, Toby and Courtney had ended and restarted their relationship several times in the last 2 years, but in March 2022, they reached an all-new breaking point. Despite only moving into the property about 2 months prior, the police had visited them twice, with a further 12 calls made in the previous months. And in recent weeks, Courtney's demeanour had become a lot more threatening, and she always threatened to kick him out of the apartment whenever they argued. Now, thankfully, with him living there full-time for the last couple of months, she had no legal authority to do this with immediate effect. But Courtney would still try to do this regardless, and in the last week of March 2022, she even asked her mum to stay with her for a week while she tried to push him out. Courtney officially broke up with Toby over this time frame, in which he spent the next 6 days living on a small sofa located in the small foyer of the apartment. Looking at the property's floor plan, you can see the room was a small hallway used between their personal elevator and the rest of their home, and for future reference, this is what Courtney often refers to as the elevator room. Courtney's mother eventually returned to her own home on April 1st, 2022, leaving Courtney and her ex-boyfriend to hash things out moving forward. But this didn't seem to go very well, as the very next day the police were called back to Courtney's apartment, and she was not happy. On the evening of April 2nd, the apartment's concierge called the police after witnessing a heated argument break out between the two. Now, interestingly enough, Courtney initially begged him not to call the police, with this even being recorded by an officer's body cam. However, shortly after officers arrived at the lobby, she very swiftly changed her position to sound as if she did actually want them to be there after all. It is important to note how Courtney responded to officers' questions here, as she seemed determined to get a restraining order against Toby, but more specifically, before he did first. Throughout the entire conversation, Courtney interrupted almost everyone, seemed emotionally unstable, and often contradicted what the concierge had already informed officers.
Okay. Basically,
Can you please let me into my apartment? Please?
Okay.
Yes. I haven't.
Excuse me, hold on. What's going on?
Okay.
Where's your apartment? You have a key?
We have.
Ma'am, you don't need to talk to me. What's
What
going
are
on?
you lying about?
Where's your key?
I'm in my apartment.
You didn't call.
I didn't. Nobody.
I called. You called.
What?
What's
Okay,
going on?
but
What's
on
going on?
here-
Hold on, ma'am. Let him talk.
Okay.
Ma'am, hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The front desk personnel, this young lady, I was actually, with the other guy. She informed us that Miss Courtney, her boyfriend, was trying to get into the elevator with her, but she had her hands out like this.
Okay.
And she had her hands out like this, and she was like, "Oh no, don't come inside the elevator."
Okay.
So we asked her, I said, "Do you want him to leave the property?" She said no, she don't want him to.
I did not say that. I said yes.
Hold on.
No, but the
Hold on. He's talking. Then you talk.
Let him speak.
Let him speak.
You get your turn. You get your turn.
We were quiet when you were speaking. Why not?
I say, are you certain for sure, do you want him to leave? Oh, no. And then I just said, you know, enough is enough. Police need to be called. She said she don't want police to be called. Okay.
Okay, but you told me I was
Time out. Let me talk. Okay.
I feel very like.
What's your name? Courtney?
Yes.
Okay, Courtney.
Why do you have something against me, man? Like I'm just trying to like. Are you gonna listen?
We're listening. Go
Did you
ahead.
say something wrong?
Yes.
Courtney, what's going on? What do you need?
Okay, can you
What?
my boyfriend. He hasn't been any I don't care. I'll hold it down. This guy said I shoved her. When I was upstairs when they showed up on my door, said I shoved him. I said, show me the video. Like, I really got angry because that did not happen. All I did was take my dogs.
All right. So what do you want to say?
I want a restraining order against Christian Obumseli.
We don't issue those.
Because,
Those
no,
are
I'm
to
serious.
courts.
Can I do that? Where
You have to
can
go
I
to court. You have to go to
Okay, but
downtown.
how can I make
petition.
myself first?
Who's on the phone with you?
Just my dad.
Okay. Well, let me
Which I think is reasonable.
let me explain to you something with your dad on the phone, so you could hear me. You asked me, how can I get a restraining order against him? I answer you, we don't issue those. That's through court. You asked me, I need to get one before him. I told you, the only way is for you to get to court. Then you asked me, is he on the way already? And I asked you, I don't even know how he looks like. You understand? It's your questions that are making much of an.
I am.
Listen to me. Answer my questions, please. Does he have property in the room in the apartment with you? A lot of property, you said. He's been with you here for about 2 months, right? Has he on and off, or is he staying with you?
For 2 months every day.
Staying with you for 2 months here with you? Okay.
Except for last week, he wasn't.
Okay. Let me let you know something. He lives here. That person lives in that apartment with you. Okay. We cannot trespass anybody that lives in this place. So we can by law we cannot do this.
And that's I do understand, and that is why I said, can I get a restraining order and get there first?
Listen, my answer was I already answered that. You got it. Just go to the court.
Just stop. They're stalking me.
Courtney's and Christian's toxic relationship was now on full display to the authorities, staff, and other neighbours living around them. And it was clear to everybody that their relationship should not continue regardless of the circumstances. We don't actually know what Toby's stance or opinion was over this event, but it was learned that just one day later, through Courtney's own words, that the two would actually get back together just hours after this altercation. However, whether their relationship was destined to last or not wouldn't ever be learned, because the very next day, police officers would once again be called to the apartment. But this time, Courtney's actions and the consequences would be irreversible. April 3rd, 2022. The weather today was stormy, but with a time of 4:57 PM, the sun had almost set. But that was when the emergency services received a very harrowing phone call.
Operator Dog, what is the address of your emergency? Okay, ma'am, please.
3101. It's 130, so 130.
Ma'am, listen to me. You need to stop screaming on the line and give me the address.
I can't feel my arm. 3101. I can't feel my arm.
Ma'am.
So my boyfriend is dying of a stab.
Ma'am, what is the address?
What's that? What's the address? 3131. 3131, Northeast 7th Ave. Please, God, please. Come see my
Okay,
boyfriend.
what is the phone number that you're calling? Is this a house, apartment, or a business?
Baby, I'm so sorry, baby.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Police officers and paramedics were dispatched to 3131 Northeast 7th Avenue, and when they arrived there, they found a very horrific scene. Christian Obumseli had suffered a stab wound to the chest and was bleeding profusely. In the phone call to 911, you can even hear the fright in Christian's voice as he tells Courtney that he can't feel his arm anymore and that he's going to die. He was discovered in Courtney's arms upon arrival, and as they inspected the property, they found multiple puddles of coagulated blood, suggesting that he had been bleeding for an extended period of time before officers arrived. Blood was also found on the kitchen island, in the master bedroom, the bathroom, and the back of the living room. Following this, Courtney was ordered to sit on the floor outside of her apartment, where witnesses noticed she was covered in blood while bizarrely kissing her dogs. Toby was rushed to the hospital as a matter of absolute urgency, and with the amount of blood lost, it became evident that everyone was fighting against the clock to keep him alive. Since Courtney had already admitted to stabbing him, she was taken down to a local police department for questioning, and surprisingly, she even spoke to them without an attorney present. The entire interview lasted more than 4 hours, where Courtney rambled and wrestled her way through many questions and statements. And being honest with you, some of them were extremely hard to listen to. Now, I've had the misfortune to watch the entire thing for myself, but in order to save you time, I've cut it down to the most crucial moments. This is probably all too obvious to say, but Courtney seemed frazzled, emotional and agitated. And in this interrogation, she described the events which unfolded as, quote, such a blur.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to have a lawyer with you during questioning. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand each of these rights I've explained to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I got a chance to talk to Christian today.
To who?
Christian.
Who's Christian? Oh,
The victim.
They haven't told me
Or
anything.
I don't know if I'm the victim.
No.
He's definitely the victim. What'd you say? This is like, I was sitting there in a freaking puddle of my boyfriend's blood, begging him to like, please not like fucking give up on me. Like, man, like this shit is fucking serious. So, I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily in trouble, but like, I just would like to.
We just want to hear your side of the story and what occurred, so we can piece this together and come to an understanding. Yeah?
Yeah, fortunately we weren't there, you know. You were, so there's no better person to tell it than you.
And it took so long for I don't know what I honestly, it was such a blur.
According to her, she and Christian had supposedly made peace with each other after their altercation with officers. The following morning supposedly started amicably, and to help keep it that way, Christian headed out at around 1:15 PM to take a walk and clear his head. Apparently, she had spent most of the afternoon on the phone with her mother, doing the laundry, and keeping things all true crime, watching YouTube videos by Christina Randall. Starting at 4:01 PM, Courtney then spent half an hour live on Instagram, before wrapping up at 4:33 PM just as Christian returned home with a Subway sandwich. But this is where things started to once again go afray, because it turns out that Courtney was once again angry at him. Apparently, Toby had stopped sharing his live location with her, and since she didn't trust him, this was a major problem. For those of you unaware, there are apps such as Find My Friends, which permanently displays your phone's location to those you trust and have allowed to see your location. Now, some couples sometimes use this feature innocently for safety purposes, where unfortunately other couples may sometimes use this to keep tabs on one another. Anyway, in the end, Toby eventually reshared his location with Courtney. However, when he asked her to do the same back, she resisted. Now, the following information is only accused by Courtney, but she claims that Toby then grabbed her by the neck and pushed her to the floor, and after calling her mum for support, he then grew more angry. Toby allegedly started charging towards her, and in response, Courtney then grabbed a kitchen knife and screamed, "Don't come any closer." But Toby apparently did not stop, and what this led to was Courtney supposedly throwing the knife at him from a distance of approximately 10 feet.
So you grabbed the knife?
Because I grabbed a knife. I grabbed a knife and I said, like, pretty much just like, don't get any close to me. And then, came with me, said something, came with me. And then I just like threw it. And I really
How exactly did you throw it? Did you just throw like that?
How many times?
No, how exactly did you throw it? Like you threw it like this, or kind of like you flung it at him, overhead, or how did that?
Oh, I just flung it.
You just flung it over your head, or from
like this.
Okay. So from like beside your head.
Holding it, yeah. So not like like I'm holding it like this. This is not the knife, the
blade to it?
Right, the blade.
Okay.
I for dang sure did not stab him. That would be insane. I mean, I didn't even think that this would touch him.
Her next actions are just as questionable, but instead of calling the emergency services immediately, she decided to call her mum. And if this really is true, then she had spent 13 minutes on the phone before dialing 911. 13 crucial minutes were wasted while Toby was heavily losing blood. Throughout her interrogation, Courtney also claimed that she had not had the chance to think about her story, which in itself is highly suspicious, as she shouldn't need to do this if she was planning on being truthful and transparent.
If I could have been given all these questions, I could be like, maybe let me think about it. Or when I'm trying to remember a whole situation of where I was very upset about something, which I've learned this in therapy and whatever, it's write down all the details so you don't forget. Just write it all out clearly so it makes sense to you and makes sense to somebody else. But I haven't had a chance to have a pen and paper or my phone to write down exactly what happened, and I haven't really even fully thought about it. So honestly, my answer is I don't remember.
Courtney also claimed that the police call-out the night prior was for absolutely no reason at all, and made allegations that the receptionist just wanted to cause trouble.
But that just didn't happen. So it's he moved from Christian to me. It seemed like he just wanted to cause trouble.
Yeah.
So the police were involved yesterday when there shouldn't have been.
Now, all of this is quite hypocritical. Courtney initially didn't want the receptionist to inform the authorities, likely because she knew she was the aggressor in the situation. She changed her tone once they arrived to make it sound as if she had made the call to get the restraining order. But now, 24 hours later, in the interrogation room, she was once again trying to downplay the situation. This is not the first time that Courtney had shifted her tone and narrative, as it was also noted during her arrest in Las Vegas. But during her interview, Courtney even questioned if her actions against Toby were justifiable.
I don't not think that this was. I don't know. I really don't know if this is justified at all. I actually don't know.
Well, that's what
I really don't know, because I know I was scared, but I really don't know.
With great sadness, but around 2 hours after this interview, it was revealed that Toby did not make it that evening, and shortly after 5 PM, after he had arrived at the hospital, he tragically passed away from his injury. And even in this situation, you can still sense and feel the absolute horror in Courtney's voice.
So, we have to inform you that Christian did not make it. Okay. Unfortunately, the doctors did what they could. And
Christian is dead.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is not real, right? Okay. No, there's no fucking way. Christian died? Can I please have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?
Sure. Yeah.
Relax.
You'll be fine.
No.
Calm down. Calm down. Just take deep breaths.
I've been crying so much.
Don't.
And I just can't even cry right now.
Take deep breaths. It's a shock.
Friends and family of Christian Obumseli were beyond devastated to hear the news. This tragedy was so sudden that no one saw it coming, and their young and gentle Toby was ripped away from them in a violent instant. Furthermore, as soon as Courtney's name was included in the cause of his death, many an eyebrow began to raise. Following the awful news, Courtney was voluntarily admitted to a psychiatric ward for evaluation under Florida's Baker Act, which provides emergency mental health services. But this is where things get very uncomfortable for investigators, because not even 2 days after this, she was released from the hospital and allowed back into the real world. Strange enough, but investigators determined that the entire thing was just one domestic dispute, and Courtney had acted out of self-defense, and therefore was free to go. Naturally, this devastated Toby's family, and furthermore, it was learned that detectives reached their conclusion not even 24 hours after reporting to the scene. All of this sparked a massive debate about privilege and being a young, beautiful white woman, and to some, it was extremely obvious that she was not the victim to his actions. And believe it or not, as all of this was happening, Courtney was back to her old habits, including drinking with her dad.
His brother. Yeah, and they're seeking justice.
Sir?
Yeah,
What?
let's all videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go.
Justice?
You just know her boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, okay, cool.
So this is what happened after Christian's death. But unfortunately, Courtney's lawyer had successfully convinced the police that her actions were the result of self-defense against Christian, who supposedly was the one to blame for his own death. With officers buying this story, Courtney was officially made a free woman, allowed to do what she wanted without any further questions asked. But of course, in the background, this wouldn't stop Christian's family or friends from tirelessly seeking justice. They almost immediately hired a lawyer who was instantly able to see the tumultuous relationship from a different angle, and combined with the evidence that they could see in front of them, they were certain that Toby was in fact the victim. But before they could do anything about it, laying out the evidence was going to take some time. Now, the legal road ahead was very long and very grueling, and while Toby's family had created a GoFundMe to help afford his funeral, Courtney was out in Texas blowing over $1 million. She fled Miami so that she could be closer to her family, and in June 2022, only 2 months after his death, she forked out $1.4 million for a luxurious Texan home near her parents. The 3,000 square foot hillside home, which is located in Lake Point, features 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a hot tub, and 3 large deck areas. And in addition to all of this, she further wired $1.2 million into her father's bank account for, quote, further safeguarding. Call it murder or self-defense, but this incident clearly had a profound impact on Courtney. She was already drinking quite excessively, but after Christian's death, her bad habits intensified quite drastically. We know this because she was soon admitted to a rehab center in Hawaii, where she stayed for multiple weeks for substance abuse and PTSD. But it seems that while she was out buying houses, getting drunk, and then falling back on herself, a storm was quietly building momentum in the distance. And that storm would finally begin on August the 10th, 2022, when Courtney was arrested on charges of second-degree murder. The prosecution claims that it took so long to arrest her as they only had one shot at convincing the authorities, and therefore they wanted to make sure that they had all the right evidence. And all the right evidence it certainly seemed they had. And as you can probably tell from this video, the state attorney's office now has a plethora of potentially incriminating evidence. This includes the elevator footage where Courtney is seen attacking Toby, the letter, recordings, and text messages left behind him, and more than 12,000 text messages that were sent between the two. Her charge for domestic battery against Toby in Las Vegas in July 2021 has also been uncovered, as did other historic reports of her abusive nature. Word has it that she had tried to stab her previous partner before Christian, and had also broken the jaw of Sean Roden, a well-known bodybuilder, in February 2017. Interesting side note, but Sean had actually kept this assault quiet, as he'd been cheating on his wife with Courtney at the time. Many mutual friends between Courtney and Toby would also claim that Courtney was the aggressor in their relationship, and furthermore that Toby always seemed to be the peacemaker. But the most damning piece of evidence that is currently known to date is from the medical examiner's report, which concluded that Toby's injury could not have been caused by a knife thrown from the distance specified by Courtney. It was further noted that, with an injury with a depth of 8 centimeters or 3 inches, the attack must have been from a very close range.
Now, based on the information you received that the defendant was alleged to have thrown this knife, do your observations support that?
I'm not an expert in knife throwing. If the person who supposedly did this is an expert knife thrower, and the knife is the type of knife that you can throw, I guess that could have happened.
Did you receive any information that the defendant was a knife thrower?
No.
So based on that fact that you did not receive that information, would it support that?
No.
And what would you expect to see a knife do if someone just flung it at somebody?
Threw it the way a knife thrower throws it?
No, someone that's not a knife thrower.
It would just hit the body and bounce off.
Now, as a result of this case, did you come to a cause, or did you make a determination as to the cause and manner of death?
Yes.
Could you please explain this report?
The cause of death was stab wound of right subclavian artery. The manner of death was homicide.
I have no further questions.
Furthermore, it was also determined that his injury was consistent with an intentional stab wound, which was inflicted via a downward thrust into his chest where the knife severed his subclavian artery. And tragically, this wound was just inches above a tattoo on his chest, a tattoo of Courtney's name. It should be noted that Courtney claimed she had acted in self-defense after Toby had grabbed her by the neck and thrown her to the floor. However, no visible marks or injuries were recorded during or after her interview with officers. Courtney's case has done nothing but become more prominent in the media over time, and as for the authorities, they have not been shy in presenting more information to the public. And it seems that, even from the grave, Toby's been able to shed more light on the abusive relationship by taking several secret recordings. In one of these recordings, Courtney can be heard getting angry at him for speaking to another woman before racially abusing him.
So shut up and let me f***ing slap you, dumb.
You're not gonna slap me.
Give me my phone.
You have your phone.
You literally talked to her without telling me.
Courtney, I was on a bike ride and she passed me and I said, hi, you and Courtney are having a live chat. My bad, I forgot to tell you that. That doesn't make you to act and call me a
You're a
Yes, thank you. Coming from thank you.
I want you to get away from me.
And in another recording, Toby captured both of them arguing in the hotel lobby. As soon as he mentions that she had hit him, Courtney then speaks more quietly and tells him to shut up, almost as if she was trying to suppress the potentiality of someone else overhearing their conversation.
Decide whether or not you're done, Catherine.
I am mad that you told me to come.
Decide right now.
Courtney, that's a word. I asked you so many times that I don't know, and I apologize, but you hit me.
Shut the
Following Courtney's arrest and all of the publicly available evidence, she now has one of the most publicly anticipated trials in modern-day history. Her defense initially filed a motion to block all evidence in her trial from being released to the public, but as you can see, this was eventually denied. They also filed a motion to block any evidence secretly recorded by Christian, but the judge also denied this motion. With Courtney's trial now scheduled for 2023, it is likely that we'll receive a new date sometime in the not-so-distant future, and I am sure that she'll have an uphill struggle to fight against the mountain of evidence. As a side note, Courtney's defense also filed a motion to release her on bond while she awaited trial. However, after stating that there is a substantial probability that the defendant committed this offense, and also highlighting how much money she has in her bank accounts, the judge deemed that Courtney posed a significant flight risk, and she was therefore ordered to remain in detention until her trial. With this being the state of Florida, if convicted of second-degree murder, Courtney Clenney will receive a life sentence with a minimum of 16 years and 9 months behind bars. Her father, who naturally is one of her most notable defenders, has recently claimed that he actually had no idea about her OnlyFans career until recently. And considering this was a huge part of her life, can he really claim to know the real and unfiltered Courtney? Now, many of you know that I've covered a few strange internet cases here already, some of which have contained OnlyFans models and cam girls. And I always find this part to be a weird corner in the adult content industry. But with her images being so easy to find online, it does make me wonder if her family have seen them. Nevertheless, I'm quite surprised no one knew. How else could she explain such a rapid and massive gain of financial success? Wrapping this one up, I want to highlight that all of my research is conducted through cross-examination from public sources, and none of this is private. And although I tried to keep most of my opinions out of my videos, I do believe from the evidence provided that their relationship was highly toxic and tumultuous. And furthermore, they should have called it quits a long time prior. When I look at Courtney and her behaviour, her actions and her lies, I see an adult that was never properly made to grow up, and in short, she lacks accountability and respect. And with all her lies and fabrications, I do find it very hard to support and believe her statements to authorities. And outside of Courtney's and her father's statements, I can't really say there is much evidence to support that he's abusive or aggressive. If anything, he is all too gentle and forgiving. Victim or perpetrator, Toby never deserved to die that fateful evening. At the age of 27 and only 1 week until his 28th birthday, he was at the very beginning of his adult life. Through his letters and text messages, it is clear to see that Toby was an emotional and sensitive man, not scared to wear his heart on a sleeve and share his love. And speaking of love, it was painfully and heartbreakingly obvious that he loved Courtney dearly. His tenacity to help and do right by her is reflective of his personality, and through the many statements left by friends and family that I have read, I can see that Toby never gave up on others. He had a lot of love to give, was empathic, intelligent, and had such a bright future ahead of him. A future that, all charges pending, was sadly ripped away. We will just have to wait and see what verdict is delivered from Courtney's trial, and as always I'll be right here to let you know as soon as that happens. Anyway, that is certainly going to be it from me today. I don't know if you've realised this or not, but this is my longest video by quite a mile, and I'm absolutely exhausted from it. But if you made it this far, congratulations. But to add to that, I would really like to know your thoughts on this case, and what you think about Courtney and Christian. Do you think this was self-defense or murder? Thank you once again for being here, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then please consider doing so, as it really does help the channel out. And if you'd like to support me and my channel directly, then please feel free to check out my Patreon, but honestly no pressure. Anyway folks, I'll be back again very soon for another video, but until that moment arrives, please remember to look after each other, and of course stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.